All right, so this is a dry run for the third class. I just want to go through the slides that I presented, make sure that I've got everything that looks good. I usually don't see the worst mistakes until I think I'm actually showing it to other people. So this is kind of pretend, but I'm going to go through it pretty quick. All right, so this is the third class on the Four Great Vows and in traditional Chinese characters. And so this class we're going to be looking at the second vow. The first class the um, we looked at the title. In the second class we looked at the first vow, and in this class we're going to be looking at the second vow, and then in the final class we will have covered enough characters and components so that we can actually go through the third and fourth vow in a single class. So that'll happen next month. Um, the Each vow follows the same four-part pattern. We discussed this last month, but this is worth emphasizing, repeating. And the first two characters say what the vow is about, and in the case of the second vow, the vow is about the kleshas, or the afflictions. We'll talk more about this as we go through character by character. The next two characters say what the vow, or say something about, in particular, what the thing just mentioned is without. And so kleshas are without end. The third component, which makes up the fifth and sixth character on each line, always says the same thing. It's the I or we vow part. And then the seventh character is what we're vowing. So the kleshas, which is you could say the subject, or actually it's the thing that the vow is about. And although grammatically the subject of the sentence that makes up the vow is I or we, but really the focus is on the kleshas. And so this is, I've mentioned this before, the Digital Dictionary of Buddhism is a great resource for getting too much information. And that's what this slide shows. Another way of getting a feel for a character, or a couple of characters that are used together to mean something, is to do a Google image search. And this is what a Google image search of these two characters looks like. The kleshas. All right, so now, let me move my face. Okay, so now in this slide, let me just focus in for a second on where we're at. So in this slide, we are looking at the first two characters in the second vow. Okay, and those are fan and now. And I like to remember these characters by saying, are we having fun now? Because of course that's ironic in the case of the kleshas, because we're not when we are experiencing the afflictions. Are we having fun now? It's making up your own stupid uh, memory assistance aids, mnemonic devices, or pneumatic devices, I usually call them, because they're ways of pounding things into your head. It's good. It's a fun game to play. Anyway, fan, which means trouble. So fan means trouble. Now means unhappy. And just to get a little bit ahead, this is a common pattern in Chinese where two characters are put together to mean something that actually both of the characters by themselves mean. It's a way of emphasis, or it's actually just a very common pattern in Chinese. The first component of fan is huo, fire. The second component is yay, sheet of paper. And we're going to talk a little more about these in a second. The first component of now is Shin, mine. Third component is Chuan, river. And the third component is Shin, fontanelle, which is the soft part of the head in a baby. As yeah, let's just move on. Now we're looking at these. We're still looking at these same two characters, but now we're focused on the components a little bit more. And this first component of the first character, huo, fire, we've already seen the radical form for this, which is a component of mu. Shin is the radical form of this character. So in this case, we've got the first character in Fan is a component form of a character that also has a separate radical form. It can be a little confusing. You never see, go back. You never see this form as a standalone character. But this can be both a standalone character for huo, fire, and it can also be a component in a character. The reverse is down here. You never see this form by itself as a standalone character, but you do sometimes see this as a component, and it's also a standalone character. You have to see this a couple of times and repeat it to yourself a couple of times, and then you'll get it. It's actually not that bad. Why do I keep doing that? Oh, because I keep hitting the wrong key. Chuan, river, is another component of, so the second character that makes up kleshas, the now part of fan now, has three components. And this is the first one, Shin. Second one is Chuan. This component is kind of interesting. It shows up, it's part of the word for sutra. It's part of the word for calamity, which we'll see a little later on in this lesson. It's also part of the word for hydrogen. You don't have to remember that, but it's just kind of cool to see where these components show up in other significant places in the Chinese language. And the third component of this character is this box with an X in it and a little check on top. All right. Now, like I said, we already discussed the character Wu, no, or Mu, as Western Zen students are more likely to pronounce it, in the last class, last month's class. But in that class, we did not. It wasn't assigned to you. We just looked at the components. But now we're moving up to including Wu as a character that we're going to practice this month. And if you do a search for Wu, Mu, an image search. So this is a let me blow this up a little bit. I don't know if you'll really be able to see it, but the search that I did is on the character Mu, and then for the two characters that in Chinese mean calligraphy. So this is a native Chinese language Google search on Mu calligraphy, and these are different examples of calligraphy of Mu. Now, so we've done the first two characters, and then we've done the Mu part of the next two characters, and now we're going to look at what it is that the kleshas are without. So that's what this little red box is focusing our attention on, just so we can keep our place in this second vow. So this is Jin, or end. So kleshas are without end. The character for Jin, or end, is made up of three components. The component for Yu which is the component form of the character for brush. Fire, which you've seen already. So now we've seen this component form of fire twice. And then min, plate, which we actually saw as a component of zhang in the first vow. Like I said, this yu is a radical form of, this is the standalone character form of the same character, yu, brush. Now, interestingly, so like if you just take these characters and put them, copy and paste into a Google search field, you find interesting things. When I did this for these two characters here, I found out most of the top hits is for a 2013 hit song by the Hong Kong group, or Cantopop. So Cantonese is the form of Chinese spoken in Hong Kong, and so just as there's K-pop and J-pop, there's also Cantopop, which is Hong Kong pop music, and they have a big hit song. Supper Moment is the name of the group. Supper Moment, which is an interesting thing to Google that and find out the origin of how they came up with that name for their group. This is a song which translates into English as endless, and here are the lyrics. And like most popular music songs, the lyrics don't actually make a lot of sense. I learned that growing up listening to the Beatles, right? Now, so now we've looked at what the vow is about, which is the kleshas. We've looked at what the kleshas are without, what they don't have, which is any end. There's no end to them. And the fifth and sixth characters are always I or we vow. And then the final character is always what the vow is focused on. Or I mean, what the vow is, the action of the vow. We're vowing to, well, what is it that we're vowing to do? Let's look down here. Let's once again call upon the Digital Dictionary of Buddhism to give us a little insight. To cut off, to sever, to destroy, to end, to abandon. In Buddhist logic, ruling out certain properties. So if you want to rule something out in a logical argument, you can use this word. When used in combination with certain terms, I don't know what these are, usually refers to the objective elimination of afflictions, which is to end to end evil, to destroy delusions, to sever afflictions. Charles Muller is one of the main people who contributes a lot to the Digital Dictionary of Buddhism. He's also one of the leading modern scholars on Korean Buddhism. So this is duan, to sever. You can just say to sever. Duan is made up of two parts. One part is very complicated, which we'll get to. The other part is very simple, and we've seen before. This is also a component in the first character in the two character combination that is used to mean vow. So every line of the Four Great Vows, including the title, has this component in it. So this first component of Duan, Ji, which means to continue, is kind of this is a character that kind of makes sense when you look at how it's put together. To continue, and then to axe, to put an axe to continuation. Like I said, kind of makes sense. This first part, G, to continue, is made up of actually the way this character is put together is a little funky, which we'll talk in more detail in the full class. This is just a quick run through. This is the breakdown. Like I said, we will get to this, and you can break it all the way down to this little character that means little or tiny. All right, moving along. Now that's all the characters in this line, but in this month's class, I want to assign a bunch of extra characters, and you can treat these assigned extra characters however you want. You can ignore them, or you can kind of look at them and think about them and try to the best at the very least look at them and see how the how what their components are and how the components are put together. And I've actually introduced I think at least one new component that's not in the Four Great Vows in these extra characters. um, so the character Shin is not actually in the Four Great Vows. Is it? Let me go back. Yeah, there's no character that actually has Shin in it, either standing by itself or as a component. But hey, Shin is an important word for Buddhists to know, an important character for Buddhists to know. So I've assigned it. Calamity. I said we were going to talk about Calamity. Here's Calamity, which is a combination, very straightforward combination of two components that we have: Chuan River and Huo Fire. This character shows up in the Bososo Jigilsang Darani, which is part of Kwanse Boso chanting and Jijong Boso chanting. This character, sorry about that, keep hitting it wrong. This character, Yu, uh, uh, yeah, so the radical form shows up in the Four Great Vows, but the full-blown form, the standalone form, does not. So I'm assigning that as as an extra character. If you take the character for Yu, brush, and combine it with the character for Yu Wei, say, and at the very end of the Heart Sutra, when we say the mantra that says Gate Gate Pada Gate Pada Samgate Bodhisvaha, this is that. This is that says in that. Jeez. Okay. So a book is a way of speaking with a brush. That's what a book is in Chinese. That kind of makes sense. The painful thing about this particular character is that it looks pretty much exactly like the character for Sun. Now, in this particular font, there is an exaggerated difference. And when you just see them written, they're often identical. You have to know from context which one it is. Another cool thing about book is that, and I said before, I did a Google image search combining the character Mu or Wu with the two characters that together make the Chinese word for calligraphy. This is the Chinese word for calligraphy, which means book dharma. The dharma of books is okay. This is the character for Tang Dynasty, which is a good thing to know. This is an interesting character that we'll talk about more in the class, but basically you can put it at the beginning of each of the vows, and then it means even though sentient beings are without limit, I vow to save them all. So in English, we often add all onto the end of these vows, right? In Chinese, people sometimes, in fact, I think often put this character ji, which means even though. So here, even though kleshas are without end, we vow to cut through them. This character also means same. And so it shows up in the Heart Sutra. When we say form, same, this is a literal translation of one of of a famous phrase in the Heart Sutra. Form, same is emptiness. Emptiness, same is form. And this is also a character that's used in the famous teaching, mind is Buddha, which means literally same mind, same Buddha. All right. Now, these are some more extra characters. Since I introduced when we brought in this character here, this is a component that does not show up in the Four Great Vows. So I'm going to use it again. This is Ming. This is part of the title of the Extend Life 10 Phrase Kanon Sutra, also known as the Enmei Juku Kanon Gyo. This is a character that means world, and it shows up in the Heart Sutra. In the three worlds, all Buddhas rely on Prajnaparamita. It also shows up in the name of Kuan Yin, Quan Shi Yin, although there's another name for Kuan Yin, which is the name of Kuan Yin in the Heart Sutra, which you'll learn about if you take my class on the Heart Sutra in classical Chinese. In modern Mandarin, this word, Shi, which is the Shi in Quan Shi Yin, when combined with this word jie, which we'll actually talk about in next month's class, is the modern Chinese word for world. And so if you do a Google search on these two characters together, you get maps of the world. Oh, hey, so as long as we're going to add some extra characters, let's add emptiness, okay? So, oops. That was, okay, here we go. Emptiness, this is how emptiness, this is, anyway. In modern Mandarin, uh, and recall that this first component of emptiness, the shui, hole, is a component of beyond, which shows up in the first vowel. So this character, Kong, emptiness means empty, air, sky, space, in vain. If you combine empty with the radical for person, you get ignorant. If you combine empty with the radical for mind, you get simple-minded or sincere. If you make a two character word, combine day or te, which means greatest, biggest, with emptiness, you get the word for outer space, and this is what you see down here if you do Google search on this two character combination. Last, I think this is last but not least, is the character for compassion or kindness, which is chi, which is made up of two components, zi, near, and shin, mind. So even though this is an example of the character form for shin being used as a component within a character. And this is a nice quote from the Lotus Sutra, which turns out to not actually be a quote from the Lotus Sutra. It's a paraphrase. This right here is a quote from the, it shows up in both the Morning Bell Chant, I believe, and in Kwanzaa Bosal chanting, De Ja, De Bi. Shows up other places too. This just means great compassion. Or it's usually, I've usually heard it translated as great love, great sadness, but actually means more like great compassion, great pity. Anyway, and this is just a, yeah, that's where I am now. Okay, this is just a somewhat of a summary, really quick, rapid summary of all the characters that we've covered in this class, this vow, the second vow, and their components. The next couple of slides talk about how to say the Four Great Vows, how Korean Buddhists say it. So this is how it's said: Bao Sang Soan, Jung Seng Mu Byun Soan Do, Bone Mu Jin Soan Dan, Bomun Mu Yang Soan Hak, Bulta Mu Sang Soan Song. And one of the reasons why I can say that kind of fast is because it's part of the Thousand Hands and Eyes Sutra, so I'm used to saying it. Here is the character sector. The only thing that I had to add was this character. This is a character for a bao, which means to make, or in terms of a vow, it means to state, with complete great intention, one's intention to do something. And this is just them again. But now I'm adding in the Hangul. Hangul is the Korean alphabet, in case you didn't know. And yeah, this is, just more Hangul stuff. This is a little bit of a plug for my next class on Heart Sutra, or in particular the flashcards that I'm making for that class. This is a summary. Let's see, I gotten everything. Yeah, summary of everything in red is a new character component that is being assigned this week. Blue are new components that are not being assigned, mostly because you can't not find a good stroke order animation for these two components, so I'm not assigning them. And this is a very colorful slide that actually shows the part of the Heart Sutra that says that is being paraphrased in the little quote that I showed before, which says that perceiver of the world sounds, pure sage, to those in suffering and danger of death, he can offer aid and support. Endowed with all benefits, he views living beings with compassionate eyes. The sea of his accumulated blessings is immeasurable, therefore you should bow your head to him. This is from Burton Watten's translation. Everything it's in color is something that we've covered either in these classes or in the very next one that will be next month. So this is a passage from the Lotus Sutra that you can now start to make out at least parts of, which I think is kind of cool. Okay, so now I'm going to end the recording, and I can figure out how. Yeah.